Hi everyone, it's Katie Crysdale here from Lakeview Aquatic Consultants. I wanted to share with you my Red Cross story. So last week, the Canadian Red Cross in Canada announced the end of the Swimming and Water Safety Program after 75 years. This came as a shock to a lot of Canadians and aquatic professionals who've grown up taking Canadian Red Cross swimming programs. I know for myself, I participated in the Color program in the early 90s, then the AquaQuest program in the late 90s. That program switched to the Red Cross Swim Kids program and preschool program in the early 2000s. I've been a Red Cross water safety instructor, a WSI, for just about 20 years. I have been a water safety instructor trainer, a WSIT, for nearly 10 years. And then the last few years, I've also been a master instructor trainer federally for recertifications, as well as the virtual original courses that we've been running during the COVID-19 pandemic. This program change came as a shock to a lot of Canadians, but if we look at the context of the pandemic that started in 2020, a lot of charities and nonprofits have been financially devastated through lost revenue and donations, the inability to host their events that fund their overhead. And so this change is not particularly surprising. It is just sad that we've gotten here. So many experiences I've had with the Canadian Red Cross over the years as a Red Cross water safety instructor, a water safety instructor trainer, a master instructor trainer, leadership volunteer in different capacities in the community. One story that always sticks with me is not particularly special, but I think it's indicative of what the Canadian Red Cross means to a lot of us in this industry and to me in particular. So when I was 15, I planned on becoming a lifeguard to work at an outdoor summer camp that I wanted to get a summer job at. And I knew that I would get a better position if I was certified as a lifeguard to work on the waterfront. I particularly wanted to teach windsurfing and kayaking. The biggest problem with becoming a lifeguard is that you had to take the class when you turned 16. And my birthday is in December, so it was at the very end of the year that I could take my national lifeguard course. And so in the interim, I decided to become a swim instructor. This is something I also knew would be beneficial because at the summer camp I wanted to work at, being a waterfront lifeguard instructor would give me better employment options. So I registered in the Assistant Water Safety Instructor course, the AWSI, that used to be the prerequisite to take your WSI, the Water Safety Instructor course. Keep in mind, this is almost 20 years ago at this point, 2001 or 2002 that I took these courses. And I went through the AWSI course and I remember finding it not particularly interesting and not particularly hard. And the reason I share that is because towards the end of the course, I was pulled aside by my trainer. You know, I attended the class, I did my homework, I went to my peer teach hours. It just sort of, the class happened. I didn't really think much of it. But at the time, near the end of the course, my trainer took me aside in these one-on-one feedback sessions and she said, Katie, you know, you probably found this course very boring because you already have a lot of the leadership skills that we try and teach in this course. And because you've been a leader in training, a counselor in training at your summer camp that you've talked about, you already have a lot of those skills. And so I don't have any feedback to give you right now during these one-on-one sessions, but I do want to offer you a job if you complete your WSI. And I remember at the time being blindsided because I was in high school and I had never thought about getting a job and I'd never thought, you know, that I had the skills for a job. That's really naive. I was very privileged not to have to work during high school, during the school year. But this trainer, she said some things that have really stuck with me during that one-on-one feedback session and then at the end of the course. And one of the things she did at the time was she invited me to a staff in-service. She invited me to a free AED training, which at the time was really, really innovative. AED, automated external defibrillators, were not part of standard first aid curriculum in the early 2000s. And so the fact that she invited me to come to a staff in service, to come to a training and participate for free, now that I've been an aquatic manager and I work full-time as an aquatic consultant, I know that trainer knew what she was doing in terms of staying connected to me as a candidate and potentially a future employer. I never did end up working at the City of Ottawa, is where I grew up, or at this pool, which was the Sawmill Creek pool. But in the last 5 or 6 years, I've tried several times to find her name, to figure out who was my trainer, both through Red Cross roster records, as well as through some digging at the City of Ottawa to figure out who the manager was of this facility in 2002, 2001. And the fact that it still bothers me that I don't know who she was, I don't know her name, but she had such an indelible impact on me in terms of believing in me, believing in what I was capable of, seeing a future for me that I didn't see in myself. I was very introverted and quiet and unpopular, and I felt very out of place in a lot of situations at that point. My parents were going through a divorce, and just so many things were changing, as they do for young people in high school. And so this individual who really showed an interest in me, or at least allowed me to understand that I was capable of something, that I had strengths that I could give back to people. At the time, I didn't know what that meant, but as I've progressed through my aquatic career as a lifeguard, a swim instructor, a facility manager, a consultant, a trainer, in all kinds of capacities, just the genuine interest that this person took in me as a candidate, in my future, and in really taking the time to highlight what I was doing well and provide that feedback. As a student, I probably was just coasting through that class. I don't think I volunteered more than average. I don't think I pulled more of my weight. I think I just was in the class for the sake of doing the class, ticking that box, getting my AWSI done so that I could get my WSI done, so I could be a certified swim instructor and lifeguard, so that when I went to summer camp, I could get a better position with a waterfront rating. And I know it's a really small thing to memorialize with the end of the Canadian Red Cross Swimming and Water Safety Program, but I think that's one of the things that's very difficult for the aquatics people I know to articulate externally to people who don't understand this. And it's also a source of the trauma that a lot of people have felt in the last week. Trauma is a very strong word, but the number of people I've talked to for whom the Canadian Red Cross or the Canadian Red Cross Swimming and Water Safety Program has been inextricable from their careers, their well-being, their life, their friendships. There's been a real sense of grief for some people. And for me, I feel that sadness that certainly something is coming to an end, but all good things in my experience do come to an end, whether it's a natural conclusion or whether it's a conclusion that occurs because of external forces, such as finances and the COVID-19 pandemic impacting how nonprofits and charities fund their initiatives. But for me, I'm able to smile because it happened and not be quite so sad that it's over. I know that's cliche and some people don't feel the same way that I do, but for me, the Red Cross is part of who I am. And although the Red Cross, the Swimming and Water Safety Program is going away, those experiences that I've had with those aquatic professionals, those leadership volunteers, they're not invalidated. They're still part of me, who I am, and who you see when you interact with me or you interact with my business. So thanks for listening.